Greetings, dear soul. I am Crispy, a Gaian, Mayan, Pleiadian emissary of light. And today we're going to talk about shamanism or Scam-anism. So, welcome. Let's begin. In Lak'esh, Alakin, Namaste. We are one. I have prepared a lovely PowerPoint for you, so let's take a look. Shamanism or Scam-anism. What is a shaman, first of all? Well, they come in all shapes and sizes and all appearances as well. I think you probably know my approach is primarily Mayan. And this is an example of a shaman, a Mayan shaman. He's a daykeeper called an Ashkish or Akin. And his name is Rigoberto Itzep Chanchavak. Now, sometimes you'll see shaman in other clothing, more ceremonial clothing. And here's Tata Rigoberto. And this is a rather famous Ashkish called Tata Alejandro Cirilo Perez Oslash. And you can find his Mayan birthday on my YouTube channel. He's called Empowering Reincarnation. And this is Hunab's men who did not tell us his Mayan birthday. Interestingly enough, I did a workshop with Hunab back in 2001. It was very fascinating. But the main source for my information about Mayan shamanism in particular, which I do believe relates to many other cultures' shamanism, is Martin Prechtel. And he wrote these books among others, and I have read these, and they have left a permanent impression in my life. He is called a pairing jaguar shaman, and you can see his videos on my channel. And it is from him and these books that I have right here that I know that for me, my understanding of what shamanism means is primarily a healer, but also very much connected to the community, part of the community, permanently. Shamans, now we're going back thousands, maybe 10,000, maybe 20, 30, 40,000 years, maybe more, were the healers in their little community of 100, 200, 2,000 people perhaps. Martin was a shaman in Lake Atitlan. I think his greater village had 20,000 people, and there was, I think, over 10 shaman there as well, maybe 15. They do not have any self-interests whatsoever. They are the healer of their people. They do not have their own hours of operation. They are 24/7, 365 shaman. There's no personal time, no individual desires or needs. They do have their own time, of course, but they might be in ceremony called to serve people for 36 hours in a row, for example, or at 3 a.m. and they must go without question. And that, to me, is one of the primary qualities of being a shaman, which is a healer. I will use those words interchangeably. The other key characteristics of shamanism is they are deeply connected to the earth and all of her life, plants, animals, crystals, the water, all of the elements, the rhythms, the seasons, the weather. Shamans can change the weather. They're famous for bringing rain, of course, and also for diverting large, let's say, floods or storms, changing the path of a storm that's been deluging. Shamans are also famous for going into the spiritual world. They're famous for soul retrieval. And you can think of that as a fragment of a soul. A person, I believe, a person's soul is primarily in their body at all times and can be fragmented. Parts of their soul can leave. When someone is naturally sleeping, their dream body goes on a journey, but their soul is always connected directly to this body. There are many myths and stories around that. The silver thread, for example. But shaman can go into those realms and bring back a fragmented piece of the soul and return it to their client, their family, their friends, their community members. And also, especially in Martin's village, and let's say for the last 40,000 years, a shaman would deal with things like diarrhea in an infant, and epilepsy is common in Martin's village. A broken leg, all right? So they had to serve their people in innumerable ways, many of them which were purely physical, but they also knew that all physical diseases or symptoms or short-term things like a broken leg have a spiritual and emotional and psychological attachment to the physical. So they see all four bodies of their clients as being one body. So, as we know, shamanism is worldwide and ancient. These are Siberian, Russian shaman. This is pictures from Celtic shaman. These are African shaman. This is Japanese shamanism. Maybe some of you know I live in Japan. The original Japanese religion, spiritual framework is called Shinto, and that's the picture on the left, the man with the drum. The drum is so present. That bald woman is a Japanese Buddhist priestess, shaman. I did a march with her, a peace march, on August 6th at 7 a.m. with about 200 other people. We did a 5-kilometer peace march down Peace Boulevard and went into the facilities that is called the Hiroshima Peace Park Museum. On the day of August 6th, the day of the commemorative ceremony. And I believe that was 20 years ago, 2004. 1 year before my daughter was born. I had been here for 9 months at the time. And she banged that drum. She led the procession. And she was singing, chanting, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, for the whole 30 minutes. I don't see that right there, but yeah, and shamanism. All right, so the drum is important, chanting is important. This is Michael Harner. He wrote a book called The Way of the Shaman, I believe in 1974, so 50 years ago, 51. He wrote some other books, one of them called Hallucinogens and Shamanism. There's often been, in many cultures, a strong connection to hallucinogens and shamanism. He, by the way, has the Mayan birthday called Oxlahtun Kimi in the Yucatecan pronunciation. And that's another thing I want to bring home to you, is that the Mayan calendar is another lens of looking at reality that reveals things that no other approach on planet Earth can. And we're going to tap into that a little later, so I'm not going to dwell on it much here, but I am telling you that spiritually there is a deep connection between Paramahansa Yogananda and Michael Harner. Speaking of psychedelics, I think you might know about the Shipibo people in the Amazon and ayahuasca. The Maya, by the way, were primarily mushroom eaters, and not just eaters. They actually took it rectally with gourds that have been found and carvings like this. There's also the northern Maya, north of Mexico City area, the Huicholis, and these people use peyote as their sacrament. So let's get into urban shamanism, as I'll call it, which is what exactly? Well, much more diverse. Could be DJing, could be Reiki, could be things like sound healing, could be doing cacao ceremonies, could be light language, could be tarot, could be breath work, any and all of these, and many other things as well. So again, basically a shaman is a healer. And there's one thing I want to make very clear before we go on, because we're going to start getting into some tricky areas. First of all, the human body, the human mind in particular, is extremely powerful, and there are countless, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of scientifically proven results that the human mind can heal itself by imagining, thinking, believing that this is going to heal me and this is nothing. So it's a bit like Dumbo. Humanity is like Dumbo learning how to fly, and whoops, there's no feather and we can fly. So all healing is self-healing. And a person who says they are a healer and believes that their clients are ill and they heal their clients is not a shaman. The client still may get healed because of the placebo effect, the Dumbo effect, let's call it, all right? You cannot take a pill and have these things happen to you, except if you believe that they will happen to you, because the human mind is actually healing. So those could all be empty sugar pills and the person might get the benefit. So keep that in mind with everything we see for the next few minutes. There is no doubt that certain substances do have a very healing effect. Perhaps you've heard of the phrase set and setting. This is a very powerful, informative tool, but it's actually missing one thing, the drug itself. So do a little research, do a lot of research. You need to understand these three effects very seriously before you attempt any psychedelic journeys. And then the setting includes the person, which could be a shaman, or a friend, or a sitter, okay? One of the most famous psychedelic journeyers in the world, Terence McKenna, did almost all of his journeys alone because he didn't want the distractions. So once a person gains familiarity with the realm, then the least amount of distractions, the better. And his famous thing was little or no lighting, no music, close your eyes, lay down, and just experience. The other thing we need to keep in mind is that healing is definitely related to all four bodies, as I mentioned. Every one of us has all four bodies. They're all interconnected. Through my embodiment, I teach that your birthday is one of these, and it is primarily connected to one of the bodies, but we all have what I call the step family. So everyone has all four bodies, of course. Now, with regard to most healing that happens, I do believe most healing is the emotional body. Secondly, could be physical and or mental. These two go together, psychological. Any addiction is a combination of those three, and even could be connected to the spiritual body. So all of these need to be taken into consideration. All shaman healers will take all four of these into consideration. Now, with regards to the broken heart, which I think is probably the most prevalent of all healing that needs to happen, there are so many factors that go into this, and really it all boils down to childhood, and even the months leading up to birth can have a strong effect on a person developing their ego, as it were. All of these are healing the ego, which I call the shadow ego. The ego itself is crucial, and you could not survive without it whatsoever. It is deeply connected to this body. It tells you when you're thirsty, and when the air in here is no good, and all of these things. That's your ego. And it has this imaginary capacity to imagine danger and fear and all of those situations. So we will talk a little bit more about that as we go along, don't worry. Now, let's talk about some warning signs. I strongly believe that almost everything connected to the twin flames phenomenon is poisonous. There is some teaching in there that could be helpful psychologically, emotionally, but basically anyone who trumpets themselves as a twin flames shaman, as it were, should basically be avoided. The whole twin flames universe is built on many, many lies. The biggest one being your soul is split in half at the creation of the universe, and finally you found each other 13 billion years later, and yet you fight the whole fucking time. So it's just a bad trip. Avoid anything to do with it. Make a little upgrade, a simple terminology shift to soulmates, which will really help you have a much better grasp on reality. Every single human being has the divine masculine and the divine feminine in them, as shown extremely clearly through Mayan embodiment. That is what we are harmonizing and forming the twin flame within us. But even that term has been tainted and poisoned, so I wouldn't say that. I would say you are the hieros gamos inside yourself. And when you heal both sides of yourself, because our culture is full of toxic masculinity and toxic femininity that we all get imprinted with. So you've got to clear all of those out, and you have to embody your own divine masculinity and your own divine femininity. Then you will have achieved the hieros gamos internal wedding of yourself. Then you will attract to you your soulmate, who you may stay with your whole life or maybe not. Ha-ha! Soulmates also goes much, much bigger to children and siblings, all right? It's just a far more open-minded approach than the TF uni.
All right, next.
Oh, by the way, on my channel, if you haven't noticed, there's an 11-episode playlist, and maybe the one that just might be the best is what the Pleiadians have to say. So back to the broken heart. This is where most people do their seeking, their searching. They are trying to heal. They are trying to heal this broken heart, which could also be called healing the inner child. Now, a broken heart brings up all of the unhealed trauma from our early childhood. It's that simple. All trauma later in life is re-triggering the childhood traumas. That's what psychology is, psychiatry, counseling, therapy, all of it. No matter how old a person is and no matter what happens to them, they go in and they sit with this counselor, therapist, psychiatrist, whatever, healer, shaman, and they tell them this is what happened, and the person will eventually take them to their childhood. If it's QHHT, they're going to go before childhood, way, way before, because we quite possibly recreate the same or similar vibrational traumas in this life that we haven't unhealed from past lives. But in this one lifetime, we can heal them all. This is generational trauma, past life trauma. It actually also goes into the future. So you will have healed higher vibration, higher frequency lives in the future when you do the work here and now. That's the way multidimensional reality works. Cool, huh? So, yeah, get a book on healing the inner child, or don't even get a book. Just look at all of the free resources for it. It's incredible. Because we're at this time of vulnerability, we attract emotional vampires and emotional predators. And some of them will pass themselves off as healers or shamans. One thing I haven't mentioned yet at all is money, and it's definitely related. Money is energy. We always need to be alert and aware of what's going on. Things need to be clear. Things need to be out in the open. A lot of scammers will want you hooked up to a monthly payment plan, and that comes directly from the Twin Flames universe, by the way. A lot of online shamanism. They want you paying every month to support their potentially lavish lifestyles that they may or may not reveal to you. By the way, as another little aside, it's an unwritten rule of shamanism that you never call yourself a shaman. So anyone who goes around calling themselves a shaman, basically anyone who's actually a shaman would go, no. But again, because of the Dumbo feather placebo effect, anyone can be healed by any situation. And here's the other thing. A lot of very dark characters hover around the field of New Age healing, and they prey on people all the time. Some of them get extremely popular, millions of followers, and people pay lots of money to be healed by them. And then sometimes there's abuse. And then the abused person eventually heals, right? And becomes, let's say, stronger at the broken places that have healed. So then the perpetrator has this sort of get out of jail free card, because they know that that person healed and is therefore somehow better off for it. So they, the perpetrator, have no guilt. All right? That's part of their trip. So keep that in mind. I'll talk about that a little later. It goes much bigger too. Okay, so the whole money thing brings up the whole law of attraction thing, abundance thing. We must be aware of anyone offering services like this. Again, the mind creates reality, and you can learn things from somebody and then therefore attract to yourself money. The law of attraction is real. And that's why when someone has a broken heart, like for example, with the whole twin flame thing, the whole drama, the runner and chaser, they're attracting that suffering to themselves, and they keep it there potentially for a very long time. Okay, so the shadow ego loves drama. Okay, it absolutely loves it. It thrives on it. It lives for it. So that's part of what's going on here. There's so much free information on abundance and law of attraction that nobody needs to pay for anything on it at all, especially like activations. Someone says, I will activate your abundance for $1,000 or whatever. Okay. So just keep in mind, it's you that is healing you. It is you that is attracting whatever you attract in your life. No one else can switch it on for you whatsoever. Okay? Right, next. This one is a little bit dicey, dangerous. This works on two levels, okay? First of all, our society has a lot of trauma in it. Our society has a lot of negativity. We have trauma for thousands of years, maybe much more, but let's just say 2,000 years of trauma. There has been persecutions. We know this. There have been witch burnings. We know this. The soul is eternal, but let's focus back down to planet Earth, and let's just say in the last 2,000 years, you and me, let's say me. I have had 33 lifetimes in the last 2,000 years. I was a witch for 7 of them. I burned witches for 3 of them. I was raped in 2 of them, or way more, and I raped in 2 of them, okay? We have done it all to ourselves, basically, all right? So if you want to pay someone to go clear your persecution imprint, super. You can also do it yourself, all right? Just look into it. Now, here's where this gets a little bit more dicey, okay? In our world of light workers and star seeds, what has arisen is an enormous amount of division and conflict, specifically branding people as warriors. And again, the last 2,000 years or more, 2,500 perhaps, of human history, we can sum it up as being reptilian if you want, as a framework. We could say we've been under this, I like to use the word darktilian, because guess what? Not all reptilians are evil, okay? And in fact, the human brain has the reptilian brain, and I think it's very likely that the myth around the Anunnaki being reptilian and creating human DNA, it's a wonderful story. It might be completely true. There was stories and stories and stories, and that's how we live. Our mind is stories. We live through our stories. Therefore, if you take that story to be real, or even just a real story, and even if you don't, and you've got a 4.3 billion year old planet, and 2 billion years ago life goes on land, and then there's humans, you have to admit there's a highly likely chance that we have some degree of reptilian DNA in us. And if you go for the starseed story, then we absolutely definitely do. And I believe that we do. Here's something else to add to it. Directly connects to Scam-anism. The word gaslighting, I'm just going to read this. Psychological manipulation of a person, usually over an extended period of time, that causes the victim to question the validity of their own thoughts, perception of reality, or memories, and typically leads to confusion, loss of confidence and self-esteem, uncertainty of one's emotional or mental stability, and a dependency on the perpetrator. Now, change the fifth word. Psychological manipulation of a culture over a 2,000-year period of time. Now, about half of the starseed community and lightworker community is very positive, but the farces of dorkness, the dork farces, also known as false light teachers, also known as darktilians, have infiltrated the whole spiritual community with ideas of separation, segmentation, fragmentation, persecution, victimhood, the need to escape this reality. Oh, I don't belong here on earth. I need to escape back to my real home. Also the concept of we are the chosen ones. We are special. We are on a mission. And you might notice the similarity between the Judeo-Roman, Catholic, Christian, Islam, Muslim, and Scientology, among other cults. The ever-present eternal war between good and evil. So, if you cannot see the connection between all of those things I just said and that prevailing darktilian religion, you see? They just took that whole framework and blanketed it over this beautiful, light, potentially healing realm of starseeds and light workers and way showers. Oh my. And they laid the same framework over top. And it appeals to a lot of people because they've been brainwashed for 2,000 years. Every one of their 52 lifetimes in those 2,000 years, they've believed the same things, basically. So now they put that belief into the starseed and light worker, and I am a rainbow light warrior, and I am a warrior of light. There's no such thing as a warrior of light. It's an oxymoron. You can't be a light warrior. You cannot take the war out of warrior. You can take the warrior out of the war, but you can't take the war out of the warrior. That's not where we're going. That's where we've been for 2,500 or way, 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 way longer. Now, the concept of 5D is very alluring, is it not? Do you think there's war there? Do you think spiritual warriors are going to make it to 5D? Well, if there's war there, then it's 3D. So, come on, man. You can't take your lightsaber, turn it off, stick it in your pants, and then go vibrate up to 5D. And then take out your lightsaber and start killing all of the other warriors that are there. It's just silly games, okay? So just drop that. If you really want to cling to that vibration, as it were, just shift your terminology to guardian. A guardian would never attack anyone. A guardian would defend themselves and the people they choose to guard with their life, if that is necessary, and only then. They do take supremely good care of their bodies. They do not stockpile weapons of any kind. We have been hoodwinked, my friends. Now, by we, I mean all of us who are under that stinky, dirty, old, torturous umbrella of Abrahamic religiosity. We've been sold these lies about us. We have been gaslighted. It's funny they say gaslighted or gaslit for 2,500 years. All right? And if it helps you to say, by the Darktilians, then say that. But we're now at the point where we know that the family of dark and the family of light is really one family. Everything that's happening is us doing everything to us on the planet and off, all right? So, yeah, time to transcend. So again, going back to what I was saying earlier about the perpetrator, when this person heals from their traumas inflicted by the perpetrator, the only way this person can actually heal is through forgiveness. And I'm going to advance that and take it up to unconditional forgiveness. Because when we add in the layer of the law of attraction, we know that every single individual is attracting things to them at all times. And add the layer of Earth School. We are here to learn, to grow our soul, to level up, and to raise our vibrations. So we need to forgive the Darktilians and forgive ourselves unconditionally. Boom! All problems solved. Up here first, and then it takes a little while to get down into the heart and into the rest of the body. Okay, so here's a few other things that factor into that 2,500 year Darktilian approach. it has now become clear that approximately 6,000 years ago, the constellations began to be charted, and there were, at that time, 13. And the goddess religions were very strong. And then, let's say, 2,500 years ago, it helps the story, the Darktilians came in and started to divide things up into 12 equal little boxes. They took the serpent out of the sky and they began to create the matrix. And they did, and they were really good at it. And when we take an actual look at the sky, we need to understand that the tropical 12-sign system and the sidereal with 12 signs is completely false. Only true sidereal, including Ophiuchus, is actual. Now, here's another problem that's happening with Ophiuchus. They're telling us that it was a man fighting a big serpent. Wrong. Ophiuchus is the divine harmony of the goddess and the serpent, which many cultures know, believe, feel, understand, represents the Kundalini chakra energy in our spine of every person. Okay? So add that to the mix or delete it. A little bit more to go here. More warnings. So when we take the removal of the 13th sign and the enforcement of artificial 12, that therefore means all systems based on it are false. Now, I like the Gene Keys system. I like what Richard Rudd did. It's beautiful and wonderful, but it's like he took a nice dress and some lipstick and eyeliner and fingernails and put it on a ugly old reptile. Okay? There's so many books, and you have to read and go through. Oh my God, oh wow, ooh. But it's based on a false system. Sorry, I happen to believe he's going to shift that in 2027, which he's been talking about for years and years as being this big important thing. Everybody knows this now. Everybody knows that the 12-house tropical is false. It's wrong. And here's the thing. It is the 3D matrix. The 12-house tropical system is the 3D matrix. So it really connects you to the 3D matrix. And the more you participate in the 3D matrix, which is not evil at all, by the way, it's just a small black cube. 13 is the sphere that is expanding. The small black cube is false, first of all. But money, property, ownership, all of these things are part of the 3D matrix. So, regular tropical 12-house astrology and Gene Keys and human design make a lot of sense the more you are connected to 3D matrix. All right? If you want to break out of the matrix, you have to start following True Sky 13-house astrology, keeping in mind that the whole system was built on Babylonian and Greco-Roman myths to begin with. So there's a lot of constriction and a lot of rules and a lot of toxic masculinity built into the system. So you're going to have to slash your way through all of that just to feel good about yourselves. So good luck with that. There is another option. Oh, just one more thing. Therefore, any system that claims to be able to find your starseed origins by using tropical 12 house is necessarily fake. Oops, sorry, not sorry. Next, guess what? The Mayan calendar is from the Pleiades. Yay! If you want to know more about that, please watch my video on it. Now, the consciousness is raising. Wonderful work being done by Steve Nobel. Additionally, wonderful work being done by Eva Marquez. Highly recommend this book. She, by the way, is the exact same Mayan birthday as Neil Donald Walsh. And again, I'm saying to you, by using the Divine Mayan Tzolk'in as a pair of goggles with which to re-examine this world, you're going to learn about some interconnections that are off the charts. Okay? It's that simple. And yes, it did come from the Pleiades, but it did not originate there. And that is mind-blowing. The Divine Mayan Tzolk'in is multidimensional and intergalactic. It did not even originate in the Milky Way. Yay! Galactic moves to dimensional. There's been so much stuff lately about 5D. Enormous amount of information on it. Check it out. A lot of it's free. Go for it. You should also, therefore, check out the Law of One, which is related directly to our galaxy. But if you do a search with ChatGPT, for example, about 5D energy, well, it's actually really grounded, down-to-earth information. Nothing in particular to do with the fifth dimension. However, incorporating the Law of One, we can say the density, the fourth density is what we're moving towards. This is all part of the general healing that each one of us will eventually need to do if we're not doing it already. Now, a few other little warnings. High ticket ascension, I would avoid. Fast track ascension, no such thing. So, here's another thing to watch out for. If you're paying a lot of money for someone to give you a DNA upgrade, go ahead if you want to, but it is probably useless except for the Dumbo feather and placebo sugar pill effect. All right? So there are a lot of these that are free. Great. Put in the earbuds, smoke a big bowl or whatever it is, and enjoy the higher vibrations. May or may not have any effect like you read it would, but it might too. Okay? Good. Now, we're going to get into some psychological and behavioral warning signs. Here we go. The bottom one could be neutral or even helpful. Another thing about Scam-anism. You can't really connect with them. They keep themselves walled off from normal communication. And again, this goes 100% against the history of shamanism of 40,000 years or more. Unprovable claims. Oh, I am the reincarnation of Pakal Votan, or whatever. If they pressure and coerce, and of course not keeping their promises. This boils down to the narcissist and superiority complex. I am the Savior, I am the Christ. Christ consciousness is coming back to all humanity. It is also Buddha mind consciousness. It is cosmic consciousness. Has nothing in particular to do with the man called Yeshua ben Yosef. That was his real name. People who call him Jesus or believe in some myth that is largely fake, by the way. And again, if they're using constant sales pressure, frequent emails about all these sales, last minute deals and 20% off and all this, that's not a shaman, all right? A shaman has their services available. They might email you once in a while, sure, but they're not like, hey. My opinion. Also, the blaming of the victim for not doing their own healing. The shaman did their hocus pocus and you didn't heal. Well, it's your fault. It's the law of attraction. It's your fault, right? Goes along with gaslighting, obviously. A lot of them have impeccable command of language, and they understand neuro-linguistic programming, for example. Many will completely banish non-believers or dissenters. And then again, the common gaslighting tactic of saying, you're just spiritual bypassing. Oh, God. Whenever anyone says that to you, they're a jerk, okay? If they are trying to help you, they would never use that phrase, first of all. And you can feel. That's what we're talking about here, is your feelings of these scamans. You can feel them. You are developing a much greater sense of intuition. We are. Our divine feminine side is the right mind. And we are getting back in touch with that. We're harmonizing both sides. We need the logical, we need the masculine, and we're bringing up to equality the feminine, which means intuition. You're going to start having much more vivid feelings about people just by watching them. There could be talking, interaction, sure, but just by watching a video, you'll be like, no. Face-to-face or in a group, you can watch the way they deal with other people. Now, I will say this. Tough love is important. A shaman must know when to be tough with a person and when not to be. There's never any superiority and inferiority. There is an unknown author wrote something called The Shaman's Promise, and it begins with, if you come to me as a victim, I will not help you, which sounds really harsh, but the second line is, but I will walk with you through these illusions you've created. I think that's how the second line goes. In reality, there is no such thing as a victim. It's not possible. It was created on our planet linguistically and experientially, but again, multidimensionally, your soul is eternal. You are here to learn in the earth school, and part of the game is the law of attraction. We all attract to ourselves that which occurs. This is individual, cultural, and the whole planet now. We are attracting higher dimensional beings to us, which will soon be proven physically so that we can go up to that next level, etc., etc. Now, that last one, you are possessed. This is one of the most insidious tactics of a predator, a spiritual predator. They'll go to a person who we've already determined has some degree of a broken heart or, depression. There's been loss of some kind or many kinds. And to begin with, we all have up and down days and moments. That's natural. But these predators will come in and they'll say to a person, oh, I can see you have this dark negative energy attached to you, and I can do the releasing ceremony for you for $3,000 or $19 million or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. Negative entities do exist, absolutely. You can call them what you want. Disincarnate beings in the lower astral, whatever, hungry ghosts. There's so many phrases and myths, and they can all be partially true, and perhaps none of them really capture the actual truth. You can remove them yourself with love and forgiveness. All right? It's that simple. Read a little bit about it, or you can pay someone to do it. That's fine. They're just reading from a book that tells them how to do it, by the way. The soul fragments little pieces of itself off with these unhealed traumas. And the real shaman, who I'm talking about in the beginning, the ones who do soul retrieval, can find that entity who is holding on to that fragment, and they negotiate with the entity. They don't fight the entity unless they need to scare the entity away from releasing that part of the fragmented soul, which they can bring back. Not the whole soul. The whole soul can never leave the body or you die. That's case in point. So, one of the naughty little tricks is, you're possessed, and I can unpossess you for however much money that you must keep paying me over and over because it came back again because you let it back into your life, you naughty person, right? Okay, so, all of this stuff boils down to one thing. Before, I called it inner child healing, and that is a great term. Here's another one. Shadow work. This term has gotten more popular lately, but it was actually created about 100 years ago by Carl Jung. And what does it mean? Well, all it is counseling or therapy or any of these things and more. It's also simply self-care. We all need to do these things. Not all of them, but if you do them, it will help you. Now, regarding the healer again, the phrase wounded healer is very popular, and it was written in a book called Shaman, the Wounded Healer. But here's what I want you to upgrade that to. A shaman is not a wounded healer. A shaman is a healed healer. A shaman heals their own wounds before, hopefully, they begin healing other people's, but it may be concurrent. It may be higher degrees of healing happening for 50 years. Who can say? However, the shaman has done the work. All right? There's also another word, guru. And that's a cute little word from the Hindu Indian culture. And my favorite thing about the word guru is a guru actually lets you see that, gee, you are you. I just love that. Here's two of mine. Always on my altar. Now, more healing tools for us in this day and age. The chakras. This nice square on the right comes to us from the Law of One teachings. The more you know about the chakras, which are energy processing centers, emotional and thought processing centers, the happier and healthier you will be. Meditation. I strongly recommend that you sign up for a 10-day Vipassana meditation. All of this falls under the umbrella of shadow work, and as I mentioned, I call it shadow ego work because the ego is not bad or evil. It is crucial. However, blah, blah, blah. And I've also said many times that the only way to do the highest degree of healing is through unconditional forgiveness. I give this away for free. It's also part of my teachings, and I will do it with you face to face if you need that. What's happening here in our lives is we are moving towards oneness. That may be what the term 5D represents. The term 5D represents. We have to also transcend the blocks and limits of 4D, which you could say is fourth density. It's not 4D dimension as in time. It's fourth density as in fourth ray, green ray, heart, chakra, love, unconditional forgiveness, unconditional trust. All of those are one thing connected to your heart chakra. Once we get that, then we can start to experience oneness. We see everyone as a reflection of me. In Lak'esh, Alakin, Namaste. We are one. At the biggest and simplest level, we are one. Okay? Wow. So, here we are. The end of our presentation is really about you embracing your shadow, you doing the healing work. You have to do it yourself, but you can also do it with the help of healers and friends. For, as you may know, the Pleiadian intergalactic multidimensional phrase of In Lak'esh Alakin means I am you, you are me, we are one God-sciousness. Namaste.